This is Active Christianity's Living the Gospel podcast. Join us as we explore different aspects of the gospel according to the Bible and how we can put this into practice in daily life.
It's 2020 and a new decade has begun. Welcome to episode 20 and I'm Eunice.
And I'm Malenko, and it's quite fitting that we start 2020 with episode 20. Mm-hmm. It's funny, it seems just like yesterday that at risk of revealing my age, we were looking forward to the year 2000.
The millennium.
And it was like a lot of rumors going, a lot of mixed feelings, fear and excitement.
I remember that actually.
Yeah.
With, not risking losing my age, but I remember that as well.
Yeah, right. The thing is, it's 2020 and it's just flown by. And you sometimes think, did you have any thoughts what 2020 would be like?
I wouldn't say I had specific thoughts what it would be like, but I can say that I definitely did not expect it to be like this. Technology has moved, if you think about the last 20 years, way ahead.
It's incredible.
I remember thinking about smartphones. I think imagine one day if I could use my phone to go on the internet. Bam, everyone has a phone that goes on the internet, things like that. So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
But the article we're reading today, you recently told me that this is one of your favorite articles. It's about making your time count. Why is this your favorite article?
I think over the years, we've had this specific article being read, in my surroundings. I've heard it being read at a bridal shower a few years ago for one of my friends, and another time I can't remember when it was now. But it's an article that fits for every season in life, especially fitting for New Year when you're thinking about taking stock, doing things different, New Year's resolutions, and it's something to think about in an article that can really remind you about the choices you make in life. And I'm just thinking New Year's resolutions are somewhat of a tradition that people do, but it's also somewhat of a tradition that, it gets forgotten by February or something. So what do you think, Milenko, how can we hold fast to the decisions we make? Not necessarily saying New Year's resolutions, but just any decision, really.
Well, I wish I had the answer for everybody. That sort of would revolutionize the world. But I think making decisions is often, it's got to do with things I know should be better. So I'm aware of things that I've been doing that aren't as they should be. And it's got to do with self-control and willpower. And if you want to do this all in your own strength, I think we find it's very difficult, and usually we can't manage.
Like keeping a diet or something?
Well, it's, for example. And then when we think about decisions we make, spiritual decisions, I want to turn my life around. I want to serve God. And you see how badly things have gone. And then you can't do it in your own strength. You do fall. You do go back and backslide.
And that's what makes you feel discouraged.
Yeah, and it makes you discouraged. And in the end, you say, well, what's the point of making this decision? I've done it so many times. And we had an episode a few weeks ago about this quote.
We're
living here to be formed for eternity.
Right.
And that's been with me since then as well. I've thought a lot about it. That the decisions we make, they should have an impact on our eternity. As Christians, as people who serve Christ and live for Him and love Him and are looking forward to meeting Him, that's what it's about, that we want to now please Him. And if we get that seriousness over ourselves, then we can ask for help. And also to see that every moment does count. The important thing is that we have to be serious about when we make a decision. And I'm thinking now about not a diet decision, but I'm thinking about like our spiritual life. We want to serve God, and from now on I'm going to do it better, and I'm going to,
maybe stopping some things that I know are bad for me and starting some things that are good.
And working on my relationships with others, because I see I'm eager, I'm selfish, I'm thinking of myself all the time, whether I want to or not. But to take that seriously, and then I have to ask for help and really commit myself to God and His Word and His Spirit guiding. And then I think not only that we've got a hope for succeeding, but it's a guarantee. When we've got God on our side and we are obedient to His will, that's what's the key to success. And humbling myself, that I lay down my own life and my own opinions and my own will. I think that's really a key to success. And when I start experiencing that, it gives me real courage to keep going instead of another defeat, another...
You get a taste of victory and you realize that you can do this.
That's right. And we have got an enemy, the accuser, who tries to come in and tries to tell us, remember this and remember the past. The thing is, the past belongs in the past. I'm living now and I'm serving God now. That's the point. Even if I do fall, and that's very likely that will happen, that doesn't mean that I have to give up. I've still made that decision, and that decision that I've made, that's the real me. That's the one that wants to serve God, that's walking on the way. And a fall doesn't mean the end of the world. A fall means I have to repent, but I have to get up and I have to keep going and not let the accuser break me down. And then I get content in my life. And that's what this article is about too. What do we actually get out of our life? When you're looking back, can you see what's happened in your life and the circumstances I've been in? Have they worked something in me? On that note, I think we can probably read the article, because I think it's a really good one to think about at this time.
Make Your Time Count for Today and Eternity. Written by Sigurd Bratteli. Now the acts of King David, first and last, indeed they are written in the book of Samuel the seer, with all his reign and his might, and the events that happened to him, to Israel, and to all the kingdoms of the lands. 1 Chronicles 29 verses 29 to 30. Times passed over David and over Israel, and there are times that pass over our life and also over the church. Many things come to light by searching in these times. Our life is hidden there. David had a time when he was a shepherd. He had a time at the royal court of Saul, a time in exile, a time when he was king of Judah, the king over all Israel, a time when he had to flee from his son, and so on. These times can be compared to the layers of the earth. These layers correspond to the different ages, and by studying these layers, archaeologists find out about the civilizations that existed in those days. From their excavations, they can form a picture of how people lived and developed centuries ago. One era forms the basis for the next. Had David not been faithful as a shepherd, then he could never have slain Goliath and thus been invited to sit at Saul's table. If he had not been faithful in the time of his exile, he could never have become king over Israel. If he had not been faithful as king, then his throne could not have been established forever. Different times also passed over Israel while David was king and in a position of responsibility. There were times of war, times of upheaval, of famine, of pestilence, and times of peace. Whatever affected Israel also affected David. By examining these times, we can excavate David's wisdom, his great deeds, and his mistakes. Nothing is lost, for it lays hiding in the layers, in these times. God also allows different times to pass over our lives. We experience times of prosperity, times of blessing, and times of honor. We experience times of adversity, with cursing and reproach. We experience times of misunderstanding and jealousy, times in which we are the object of envy and backbiting. We also have a time of childhood, of youth, a time of manhood, and a time of old age. These times present us with their various difficulties and temptations, as well as tasks and possibilities. There are victories to be won and opportunities to be grasped during a particular time that cannot be won or grasped during the time that follows. Nothing of what we do or do not do is lost. It lies buried in these layers. Only a few are awake to this fact, and they understand it only after the time has passed them by. Then they wake up and realize everything they should have done and not done, but then it's too late, and the layers in the earth testify against them. There are also times that pass over the church, times of revival, times of drought, times of peace, of turmoil, times of honor, and of reproach. We are also included in these layers. When these times pass over the church, then the question is whether or not we understand the time, so we become as a gold nugget in this layer of the church, and not a rusty piece of scrap iron. People usually prefer one time to another. They would rather have only times of revival and peace, and not times of war and drought. However, such desires are not born of wisdom, because all these times must pass over our lives and the church, so we can be tested and qualified to sit on thrones with Jesus. But just as Jesus was the cause for the fall and rising of many, so these times will also reveal people's attitudes and will be either for their fall or their rising. Most people do not want anyone to dig in these layers. They hate these archaeologists. Nevertheless, we cannot hinder them, and we must accept it. People cannot find everything, but God shall one day dig up everything that is hiding in these layers, in these times. Therefore, we must watch and pray so we can remain blameless during these times, and stand without spot or wrinkle after having overcome all things. Therefore, beloved, looking forward to these things, be diligent to be found by him in peace, without spot and blameless. 2 Peter 3, verse 14.
So, I think this article really awoke a seriousness in me that the time I'm living in now won't come back. Like the seriousness you're talking about before we read the article, the seriousness really comes forth in this article. And we go through many different times in our personal lives, and also people around us go through different times. And quite often I might be in a time that I feel like, I've been through this and this person's kind of working through that. And it's easy to have thoughts about that. Maybe I kind of look down on them, or I lose patience with them. And so there's actually so much to get out of this article. When I read it, I just saw a lot of myself that I could work on. What did you think, Milenko?
Yeah, and we were just talking before we read the article about how to hold on to our decisions. And Sigurd Bradley writes here about the dry times, the times when you don't feel much, when it's difficult times, and that you should be able to find nuggets of gold in those layers as well. And that's the whole point, that I see beyond the dry times, beyond the situation I'm in now, and I see what am I going to get out of it. And that I learn to give up my own will, my own demands, and that I can start serving God. Then I get those nuggets of gold, and they're going to last for eternity. That makes every time I'm in actually really interesting. Not necessarily that I feel it that way, but I know that this is what's happening, and in my spirit I'm uplifted, and I drink of these wells that God gives me in the dry times, and out of it comes gold. And the same happens in the other times, the good times. Then it's easy to relax and start thinking about other things. There's no problems. I don't need God. On the contrary, that's exactly when I do need God, to hold fast and to be faithful, that there's also gold there. So I think this article is really inspiring for me, that every day counts, every time counts. And what can I get out of it?
I remember this saying that's super common. I've also heard it being mentioned before. This too shall pass, Like, for example, you have a hard situation, you have someone annoying in your life or something. This too shall pass, I'll get over it. Just hang in there. But this article, the whole mindset is completely different. Like what you said, when I'm looking for the nuggets of gold, then it's not this too shall pass, but in a way, this too shall pass, so I better make use of the time now.
Yeah, right. It becomes like encouragement to really be faithful right now, because
it will pass.
Yeah. 2020 already,
Yeah, and so like what's written in the article, there are victories to be won and opportunities to be grasped during a particular time that cannot be won or grasped during the time that follows. And when I was reading this article again before we did this podcast, then it suddenly became clear to me that includes the people that I'm with. I may be with people that I might not be with in a few years, and it's the time now where I should build a good relationship with them, and, for example, learn to forgive and learn to have fellowship with them. And that became super clear to me. Right. It was like a revelation.
Yeah, and Sigurd Bradley, he writes about this as well. It's on a serious note that only a few people are awake to this fact, and they understand it only after the time has passed them by. Then they wake up and realize everything they should have done and not done, but then it's too late. And the layers in the earth testify against them.
That's serious.
That's really serious. But what this means is that we should think, okay, now I have to start thinking about the time right now and be aware, be conscious about this. You know, it's an exercise to exercise myself in that, to be conscious about the time I'm in now, and that these layers are not going to testify against me. They're going to testify to God's glory, what God could do in my life in these times. That's a real motivation. Instead of always having to regret, looking back with regret, I can work now, and then I can look back and I can be thankful, and it's to God's glory. What better way to live your life?
I think about the heroes in the Bible, you know. There are some, for example, Joshua and Caleb, where it's written about how they had faith, but then there are also all the others who, you know, you don't even know their names pretty much because they didn't believe, right? And I think about, I actually heard it a few weeks ago in one of our church meetings where someone talked about how, you know, when the Bible history is written again, you know, will you be included? How will it be written about you? And that really hit me. You know, I don't expect to be written as this big hero, but at least I don't want to be one that's written about as someone who didn't believe, someone who created trouble, because it is my life. I can't change my past in a way. So that gives me seriousness for the present too.
So the thing is that we have to work while God's prompting us, while we know what we have to do, which is now. And I always have something to work with, somewhere. Be thankful, to be patient, to be loving and good to others, you know. And I find things in myself that go against that, but now I have to work, and that's the point. While the opportunity's there, and it's always an opportunity. That's my life. It's an opportunity right now.
It's so easy to make excuses or put it aside, don't you think? I think it's human nature. Probably everyone experiences that. So yeah, I'll do that tomorrow, or you know, it's something that I only know, and that person will have no idea. So whatever way I do it doesn't matter, but it does matter.
Right. And I'm working on my own salvation, and I can also be along and blessing the others right now. You know, you can do something for people now. It's also easy to look back and say, oh, if only I'd been better to them, or if only I'd been, you know, better to my brothers and sisters and my parents, and then later, if only I'd been better to my kids, and then my colleagues, and so on. And why always look back and think, if only I could have done something more? Do something now. Think about it. Maybe do something today. Go out and do something extra, and maybe go against your own inclinations and bless others where it's difficult for you. And I think you won't regret that, on the contrary.
It also says in the article that people usually prefer one time to the other. And that also was something that hit me. It's probably not so strange because human nature would rather enjoy than suffer. So do you have some advice and some encouragement for someone who's going through a time that they would prefer not to be going through this time, but they are anyway? Do you have any encouragement for them to hold on to something they can hold on to?
Yeah. And I think that's exactly the thing, that we usually can't choose our situations. Things come up in life, and we have to go through difficult times. Every single person on earth goes through difficult times where you'd rather that it wasn't happening, or much rather it wasn't happening. You know, there can be really times that you desperately want to get out of, but instead of, and it can sound like it's easy to say while I'm sitting here in the studio, but the thing is, those times, they are precious times, and I have to, if I've got faith in God, I have to believe that He has led me to this situation because He's got a purpose in my life. And to find that purpose, as it says in Romans 8 verse 28, that all things work together for good for those who love Him, who are called according to His purpose. And then I think, okay, what's my purpose that I'm called to? All things, it says, work together for good. And that means this also. And the good, that doesn't necessarily mean that the situation will pass, as you said before, or this will pass, and then suddenly everything's better and it was for the good. It can be that the situation keeps going for the rest of my life. Take illness, for example, or maybe financial difficulties or relationships to others that I can't change them. And I'm in that situation. But what's God's purpose for me? How do I use this time? And I can find in myself, I can find demands, I can find irritation, I can find these things that go against God's will, and I can work with those. And when I do that, and I'm obedient to God's Spirit, His promptings, where I have to humble myself, what happens?
You are getting changed.
I become changed. And isn't that for the good?
Then that does pass. My impatience does pass.
Right, and that is His purpose for me. And then there's no problems that anyone can dig in my past. All those situations that I wish hadn't happened, according to my feelings and so on, and they are difficult situations sometimes, small and big, I can look back and anyone can dig in those layers and there'll be gold, instead of rubbish and disappointments and complaining and, that the difficult situation became even worse because of my attitude. It can be that those situations delivered gold. And that's really, then I've lived according to God's purpose. Then His word has gone out and done what it's supposed to do in my life. And it's to God's glory. It's not something I do in my own strength. I get strength from Him and His Spirit in those situations. So if we can live like that, then we've got a really bright future, fantastic life on earth, no matter what situation I'm in, no matter what feelings I have, I've still got a fantastic life. And then think of eternity, when all those situations are taken away, and I've only got glory and the content I've received in this life. So I think this reminder we have, we can start 2020 thinking like this year is going to count and the rest of my life is going to count. I think that's fantastic.
I think also through hard times, when you take it right, then it really brings forth the virtues in people. Like, when you how does it say, like, it takes fire to bring forth gold.
Right.
And I know I've met people in life who've had difficult situations and sickness and all that, and all you see is the virtues that come forth. And that is the biggest testimony and example that God's word works. And that's how we can be for people, and I hope also I can be for people.
Right. Let's finish on that note, that we have this life where anyone can dig in the layers of our life and find gold, find proof that God's word works and that God is mighty to save even a wretch like me in all those different times I've gone through in my life. That's how this year is going to be for me. That's my decision, and God will help me to stick to it.
Same for me. So have an awesome new year and all the best for 2020. Make your time count for today and eternity. And we look forward to a lot more good things coming in 2020 from Active Christianity.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got plans for quite a few different things. Hopefully some really good animation videos and that kind of thing.
An update to our website.
Update to our website. So there's going to be a lot happening. Keep following.
And also that this podcast will continue.
And the podcast will continue. So keep following and see you again next week.
Bye.